Hello, I'm Sarah Parker Massey.
I'm Joy Todd.
And I'm Jenny Black. And this is Momcult after the episode.
Woohoo! We missed you. Hi, Jenny.
Oh my gosh, I've missed you guys so much.
I know.
This is my favorite place to be.
I saw you walking up today ahead of me, and I was like, it's been too long. In this sacred space. Check in, Jen. How you doing? It's been a while.
Gosh, I have so many updates. I was like, I had to really narrow them down. So the first one that everybody wants to talk about, which is what you told me to talk about, is that if someone hasn't seen me in the last couple of months, I have like curly hair. I keep like when I see myself in the mirror, I keep thinking of Meg Ryan from When Harry Met Sally. Just like I've got that kind of curly hair. People think I got a perm. So here's the backstory. Sometime over the last year, I didn't remember like losing hair, but I just wasn't growing hair anymore. And so I assumed my diet has changed a lot. It's been a really stressful time.
COVID.
Whatever. But then stuff is coming out that it could be COVID or vaccine related, like that's one of the side effects. So anyway, I've done all of these things. Like I drink collagen in my coffee. I take certain crazy supplements. I have all these like hair growth shampoos and stuff that I've been doing. And my hair is growing back curly.
But different.
Wow.
She's growing back someone else's hair.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating. So is it all over? You're saying all over you were losing hair?
Yeah.
I've had like acute alopecia or something, like from moments of stress, and but my hair's always been curly. Anyway, that's interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
So it's like being like I've had to learn how to do it.
It's like a hodgepodge of like your old original hair, which is still kind of straighter, and then just these shorter curly hairs growing up on top and around the side. But I'm assuming once the curls grow out,
maybe
more,
I don't know. But the other
like
thing is, there's nothing you can do with it.
Right.
Like, so for the first month, I kept trying to like blow dry and straighten it. I was like, oh my gosh, I do not know what to do with this.
Wow, that's really like walking in someone else's shoes.
It really is the perfect update because that's how everything in my life feels right now. Like it's a Freaky Friday. Like I just landed in somebody else's life and body, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Okay, well, I'll give you some tips after. I have
Thank you.
Mine's been whatever. I'm not acting like I have like some, but I think that already yours is kind of doing more of the thing that you want it to do. So there's two things that I'll give you. I'll just tell everybody because everybody's interested. This new microfiber like head turban wrap. I don't know if that's culturally inappropriate.
Okay, you're allowed to say turban.
Not sure.
Well,
But I have one. I have that.
Okay, that. Okay. And then like a leave-in conditioner. I basically never wash it, and then I do a leave-in conditioner after. And that's, I don't know. It's not like
never wash it.
I mean, I occasionally wash it, but I don't wash it a lot.
Interesting.
But my hair's really dry, so it just depends on your hair.
Yeah, my hair's dry too.
Anyway,
Well,
fascinating.
maybe not anymore. She's
Right, what do I
learning
know?
all the new qualities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but are we going to take turns updating or do I keep updating?
I mean, I don't have much, so you can keep.
You've got one thing.
Keep going if you want.
My other big update, which is like, I went on like the trip of a lifetime, drove across country all the way to Montana, did all the fun things like hiking and kayaking, and just so much greatness. And I got poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. And now I'm on like day 7 of steroids.
The trifecta.
What are the steroids doing to that hair?
So I feel upset all the time. And I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, like I'm just a mess.
Because of the steroids, you're saying?
Yeah. And I know, like, I can feel like, oh, I'm not even upset about anything. Like, I can feel it's just in my body that it's like a alarm has gone off in my body, and I'm just like, nothing's wrong. You're fine. You're fine. Just walk, like, take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, those are my two big updates.
Dang. Sarah, what you got? Can you top that?
Well, I just want to interject that I once got poison oak, I think, on one of the poison things, not ivy, on my face, and I swelled up. I guess I'm allergic, obviously, and it was like Quasimodo for like weeks, and I couldn't go anywhere, and then all my like Skin flaked off.
It's awful. I'm so lucky it was not on my face. Like you can
Exfoliating.
see on my leg. That's what's left.
I wrote, is it me?
It's you.
Okay. I wondered in this time that we've been away, if there's someone who follows you around and monitors your parenting and gives you notes and resources like on how to handle things. And then I thought, I think that's Child Protective Services.
Yeah, can we have a Child Protective Services option that isn't like we're not terrible, we're not harming them. We just would like some observing and some notes.
Yeah. Just like a freebie.
Yeah, like a dress rehearsal, and
yeah.
you're like, hey,
You could
maybe
be the practice moms for like people who are like going into the fields. Like you got to practice on.
Well, yeah. But like
Have
if you see anything, don't say anything.
Right. Don't tell me in the moment that I'm doing the wrong thing, or I'll punch you in the face.
No. It's well, tell me later, but don't report it.
Right. Keep it to yourself. There got to be some confidentiality waivers that we're signing.
Yeah. Yeah, check-in wise. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's been a good time. It's a good few weeks.
Nice. Good for you. I got a tooth fairy update.
Ooh.
She knows.
Well, I'm sure I had something to do with that.
I think she already knew before spending the night at your house. She lost a tooth while spending the night at Jenny's house.
She lost a tooth at the grocery store with me and then spent the night at my house. We had a 5 a.m. video shoot, which was terrible. I couldn't even think about that the tooth fairy was supposed to come. And the thing is, I was really terrible at that with my own kids too.
Right.
But I even had the cash and everything. Like she was gonna.
I know, because I was like, I don't know if the tooth fairy's gonna visit you, and you were like, she probably will. So I was like, oh, okay, Jenny's got it covered. Then she didn't do anything.
Because she just went cross country robbing banks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So cut that.
Back to the.
Oh, that fell flat.
Okay.
I laughed. She didn't react.
Sorry. Moving on. Was she shooting a video?
Yeah. So we are starting a documentary and we were doing our intro for the documentary, and it's about it's basically taking an artist to see what they can create if they get rid of their phone for 30 days. And so the intro has like somebody throwing their phone away, picking up a notepad instead, and then showing all these pictures of what people do when they're not on their phones. So Ava's in it doing sidewalk chalk, and she was amazing.
Wow.
At the sidewalk chalk and acting in the documentary.
Crushed it.
So after her house, then sorry, interrupted.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're
she
fine.
She woke up at my house.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Tooth fairy. I moved her pillow and I was like, oh crap. So I was like, sorry, Ava, she didn't make it here. Tucked it in her bag.
Yeah. So I picked her up, and on the drive home, she said, Mom, is the tooth fairy real? I said, do you really want to know? Do you want to know the truth? She said, yeah. I said, no, the tooth fairy is not real. Mom, what? Are you the tooth fairy? Yes, I am the tooth fairy. Mom, what? Will you keep writing me notes? I said, sure, but I'm not giving you any more money.
Because I don't want you in therapy.
You are not. I'm not giving you money to go to therapy and
I don't want you saving up to
talk about me.
Going to a therapist behind my back online.
That's for the child observer to do. Other than that, Penny will take my glasses off all the time and then get in my face and go, hi, Mama. Heart-wrenching. And then, I don't know, last night I had acting class, so I didn't put her to bed, but she started crying at one point, and I went up and held her for a second, and all I could think was, she's so heavy, and it made me really sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
18 months is really fun. Like all her little words and voice, and I know, like, I'm going to forget what it sounds like if I don't have videos and voice memos and things. Anyway.
What was it like for you guys with Andrea talking about, I know a lot of moms talk about their birth stories and sleeping and nursing. What is it like for you guys to hear about that, being as like close as you are to having just done that, what do you care or think about the phases you're in right now?
I mean, I still am. Newborn phase is I'm happy for that to go by fast, like she did. She's like, I was ready for the infant phase to move on.
But like, do you think, you know how when you're in that moment, you're just trying to figure out, like, what kind of birth do I want to have? Am I going to breastfeed? What kind of sleeping do I want to do? Like,
yeah.
Do you, contrasting it to my perspective, so is like, I'll hear that and I'll be like, oh, wow. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about that at one point, and I could never, ever, ever think about it or talk about it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how whatever phase you're in holds all of these. Like, do you feel that way? Like, do you care about your birth stories now? Or, like, I don't care about mine anymore.
Maybe.
But I really cared about, that happened over time.
Yeah.
There were just new things that became the bigger, or not bigger, just more in your face.
Well, I think that's why it's so nice to have people around you that are in the same phase, because your priorities shift as your baby grows. Penny's just climbing on everything, trying to open every door, I can't. I just want to sit. Just let me sit here for like 10 minutes and do something while you just play with some toys. Right. She doesn't stop moving and searching for whatever she isn't supposed to play with.
There's something like Penny is at the higher end of her like height and everything for a kid, right? Like growth range, and Parker's definitely too. And that like having to wrangle a kid who doesn't fully understand like what is or isn't going to hurt them, and then that's so big. And he's just gotten...
Yeah. And the screaming. I mean, the screaming and the physical body that you're now fighting with, pulling them away from something.
Yeah.
Is they're getting stronger.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I think about... I don't know. It's interesting to hear what how everybody deals with every different phase. But when I'm listening to that, then I hear... I don't know. I think about... You can cut this. I think about like, jeez, because it sounds shitty, but like I'm thinking about like where I am in like terms of learning that thing, or actually just when you said that, then I'm like, yeah, and then I'm studying on all these other things. It just feels like it's just constant. That.
Well, I think it's one of the great things that this podcast is doing is recording those moments. So a lot of the reasons moms didn't tell me all this stuff is because they didn't even want to think about it. Yeah. It's not that they forgot. They're like, it.
Right. Like, why would I go back there?
Let's move on. I don't want to talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
So I love capturing it while someone is going through it, because then it makes it available, because they're not going to want to talk about it next year either.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I feel like in my head, like I tell myself, like, yeah, but I do feel that same way. I forget a lot of the things. If I didn't have it, I do. Yeah.
Well, I was taking notes so fast. Like, Andrea really kind of dove in. Like, I was realizing, wait, y'all hadn't even done your updates. And she said, she used a couple of phrases that I really loved about, I guess maybe it was about work and having kids and the balance or whatever. But she said everything has its place. Mm-hmm. And that just such a simple sentence, but is really like, oh, it all has its place. Like, I don't have to say this is more important than this is, and if I really valued this, I would do this instead of this. It's like, oh, everything has its place.
Yeah, she called it the identity teeter.
I didn't even hear that. I love that.
I didn't either.
Yeah. I don't think they were like in the same sentence.
So say more about that.
Well, that's just, I feel like what she used to define what you're talking about, which is the push and pull of where we land at different times of the day, mentally and emotionally and physically, and and I think part of the anxiety that comes along with that is feeling like there isn't a place for all of it. And so I think that's just part of us growing as humans and adults. And the more things we take in, we go, okay, well, I'm taking this in, that maybe I also need to let something else go, but just trying to, the searching for what place that is for all those things is the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always changing. So,
well, I don't really know if this is a me thing or a my age thing, but I think I'm just totally done having an identity. I think I'm like, that was exhausting.
My new hair has decided we don't know her anymore.
We don't know her.
I'll have like these parts of me. I mean, I'm a therapist. You're supposed to know yourself and know what you want and know what you need. And I'm just like, really? Who cares? Who cares? Like, I'm just making it all up. Like, I'm just like,
yeah, it's all an illusion.
Just really burn it down.
It's not even burn it. That would be nice. That would say there was something to burn down. It's like, oh, I think I'm just done trying or caring.
Yeah, I think I've heard multiple people that are in their 40s being like, oh, this is the age I just don't care. I'm so exhausted from all the caring I've been doing for 30-something years.
Yeah.
So on part of my out west trip, I went out to Seattle to do a media trauma workshop for a community. And I was supposed to get there, supposed to fly in Friday morning at 10 o'clock, do a 7 o'clock, like 6:30 thing that night, and then then a whole thing all day Saturday. Well, I get at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're like, your flight's canceled.
Great.
The next flight leaves at 2:30. You'll get there at 7, 8 o'clock. So it's like, So I'm like being paid to fly out to Seattle and do this thing. That they're coming to see me, and I'm not going to be there. So I'm like,
oh well.
I call the guy who had hired me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be there. He was like, huh? He was like, do you have a plan B? I was like, well, so I told him, I was like, how about you watch the YouTube video, and then I'll send you like what I was going to teach tonight, and you teach it. He's like, sure. What else was I going to do today? Okay, fine. So that's what ended up happening. But it was so fascinating, like watching like how that would have wrecked me, and like, oh my gosh, I'm disappointing people. They're paying me for something I should have. Why didn't I fly in the day before? You know, like all those things. And I was just like, Got there at 7, went and had dinner with my friend Jen. Like, it was just like they had the little thing without me, and it worked out great. I showed up the next day, but it was just that constant feeling of like, I should have done it better. I should do it right. What are they thinking of me? Mm-hmm. Am I earning my place in society or in relationships? I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that I don't want to do it anymore. I just can't.
Right. Everything has its place.
Yeah, it sounds sort of to me like you're like reaching ascended master status and like connecting to your truest self.
What if there's identity teeter-totter? I'm still on a teeter-totter. There's just no identity.
Well,
I'm just like,
you're just flailing around.
Maybe I'm just really wanting you to be in the box,
and
but
back to the left. So,
I mean, it feels like that's an identity in itself. Is like being, like feeling just okay, you know?
I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird.
Huh.
Well, let's go with your Zen master thing.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that.
Yeah, that sounded cool.
Ascended master.
Ascended.
RuPaul says that. Ascended
master. Yeah. That is anyone who's actually with me for most hours of the day would not think that was what it is.
Well, I think feeling that like human stuff and then not getting just too caught up in it or worrying about it too much. And maybe you are. Maybe that's not what you're saying. Maybe I'm just hearing what I want to hear. But
no,
I think that's
true.
the thing.
That is true.
Because everybody's going to feel those things.
That's true.
Not that I just really need you to have an identity, okay?
We're going to have to find somebody else to do these after the episodes, and we really only care about this podcast, so and we'll cut all of that story.
You're fine. She's fine.
Everything is fine.
Who she is. She knows everything she says. She knows it all. She's good. What's going to happen is we're going to keep learning, and then we're going to know all the answers. Mm-hmm. And that's
one day we're going to just have it all figured out.
I remember Adam saying to me one time, gosh, what was it? It was something like, you think you're right about everything. And I was like, no, everyone else thinks I'm right about everything.
I'm not. I keep trying to tell people.
And he like looked at me and he was like, oh my gosh, that this is true. Like I'm being very clear. I don't know, y'all.
Please stop asking my opinion.
But we want somebody to know, right? Like we want there to be somebody out there.
Yes. Yes. Nobody wants to feel alone.
Which leads me, well, there's so much. The whole Punky Brewster thing. Can we have a whole episode on that?
You would have loved that. I can send you well, whenever I listen to it, and then I can send you the recording.
Wow.
It's fun. It was fun. You should go see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me want to go, but also it would take like 3 years before I would get in.
Really?
Better get on the list now.
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
It took me a year, but now he's 2 years out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I want to hear more about your thoughts about how you feeling about Punky Brewster.
My first response is, that made sense to me. And I was like, yeah. The whole thing was weird. I just accepted it all. Like, not as if everything he said. Not like as this is absolutely how it is, but I didn't have any expectations. And I liked everything he said. And I don't know how that works. And I know there are people, I've had some conversations with friends who are
Skeptical?
definitely skeptical, but also like are really concerned about my spiritual well-being in a sense,
right.
like just things. So I don't know if I'm apologizing to people.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
No,
I like
but
it.
like I'm not necessarily in that category, but I'm definitely not. Oh, that sounds fun and interesting. And then there's a very judgmental part of myself that is like, that's stupid. And yeah, what would people think about you doing that? What do you think about you doing that?
I'm in.
Yeah.
And then I want to have the feeling of like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
But I still do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think I don't really have it. I don't need it to be either thing. I just like felt strangely like I heard about this guy and in my gut, I felt like, or gut or into something, I felt like I'm supposed to go see him or something like that. So that's how that happened. What was the question?
How are you feeling about Punky Brewster?
Oh, good.
Kind of the implication, right, was if you're open, she's there. If you're not, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if I get ready, sort of, or if I
get
feel
it together,
ready.
Sarah.
Right. And so
when you feel ready, if you feel ready.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I felt like, great. So I think about it sometimes. It just feels like the whole thing just feels happy and peaceful and calm, not just that part, but all of it. Mm-hmm. It all felt really good and like affirming. And I said that in the last time. I'm just like reiterating it. I don't mean to oversell it. It's just how it felt. And I don't think that's how everybody feels in those scenarios. It was a really good experience.
I feel like what I'm experiencing right now, it could come in many different places or forms, but that when something is, I want to say the truth, like that might not even be the right word, but it's like this feeling in my body, like when you're tuning an instrument and it hits the right note, it's finally in tune. Mm-hmm. It's like my body's just like, yeah, that's the truth. Mm-hmm. Like that's what feels right, and that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and in this scenario, in this case, it felt like some of it felt like that, and some of it felt like, oh, I think that you might be pulling. I don't know how it works. It felt like maybe you're pulling from somebody else in my life, or like I don't know what he sees, and maybe not. Yeah. Maybe it was me, and I have no idea. Or like maybe you're seeing this thing that already happened, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't make it untrue, and I don't know how I sound saying that. It doesn't really matter, I guess. I don't. But it did feel like that complete feeling. I know exactly what you mean. It's like when a design works, I just know it. Or when something is like good aesthetically, I just know it. That's the most like clear version of that I have. And then this did feel like that.
I am very attached to Punky Brewster, so you should know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you gotta get ready then for Jenny.
Yeah, to be involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
What else you got?
Well, I just, Ava in therapy. Like, I was laughing so hard.
That was really funny.
I was laughing.
They didn't laugh.
So
they go,
hard.
oh. And I'm like, no, this wasn't meant to be
gosh.
cute. And like, oh, poor Ava needs to talk about her feelings.
No.
So funny.
I just was like,
funny.
I was like, oh, great. Let's get her in there.
In there. Everyone
So
has the money
good.
for that.
No, I mean, she's so much like me that it's almost painful to be with her. When I do this meditation where I go and talk to my like childhood self, my parents, and my ego, And Ava's always my child self. And like, that's what it's like being with her. And I'll just watch her and I'll feel her and I'll just be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry for us. This is just
so hard.
So unfortunate. So I just get it so well.
She came home and she was like, oh, finally I get to be on my iPad.
You just talking the whole time? You're just engaging?
Well, she just knows when she's at Jenny's that the electronic devices are just like, no, not available.
It's not, well, they actually are available. I just am always like, what do you want? Like, you're right here with me. What do you want? Like, do you want to cook? Do you want to go for a walk?
I'm not your mom, so just tell me what you want and I will do it for you.
And so, like, let's start there. And then if I have something to do, you can go get on your iPad.
Right.
Were you like that with your kids?
Yeah, I was super, super strict.
Oh, that's why you're like, okay, see, I do your own. Yeah, that's how I feel.
But both of my kids, I mean, I've, like, it's no fun. It's no fun being the cop all the time. Mm-hmm. But both of my kids say they hated it so much, and it's number one, number two favorite thing about who they are, that screens have a pretty negative connotation in their life.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for that. But oh gosh, I had more on Ava. I had so much on Ava.
I've been struggling with that, the screen thing recently. Just stressed about it.
Sorry. You or him?
I mean, me.
Like, you on a screen, or feeling like you're allowing him too much screen time?
Both.
Yeah.
And always the balance of that, and just recognizing like how, like, letting in yet again, even though I like, it's like in the list of things that I think about every day, that I'm super ADD, so if I engage into my phone, then I literally can't hear him talking to me, and he's like asking for things and like what that would do, and I mean, I just start getting irritated. Right.
If I'm doing something and something else is interrupting what I'm trying to do, I feel the
thing,
the frustration,
totally.
like just already building, and I'm like, oh, it's just because you're doing. Just stop what you're doing.
Right.
Give them their attention, figure out what they need, and then you can come back to it. But it's like, man,
one of the
just
best.
Learning that skill is hard.
Yeah,
it's very hard, and you don't have a lot of things going for you because it's all how it's made and it's how you're made. It's not like you're working against nature.
Right.
But I did a podcast with this woman. She was a grandma, and she did the coolest thing I've ever heard. She had two different colored glasses, like a pair of purple glasses and a pair of green glasses. And her grandkids always knew, like, even when they were babies, like, if grandma has on her green glasses, she's working.
Dang.
And, like, and that was their, like, oh, okay, she's working. So if they saw her on her stuff, they would know so she'd tell them, it's hard to get my attention. I've got to really focus. And when you're doing things that you're working on, you know. And she just had the most amazing stories of these tiny little kids being like, oh, it's the green glasses. And then she would, like, when she finished, she'd put on her purple glasses and they'd be like, ah.
I mean, I really want to do that. That's a great idea. I think that would work well for him too, specifically. And he would, like, get it.
It also shows, I think the thing we all feel, whether it's your kids or yourself or who you're with, like, if somebody gets on their phone, it feels like they could just be there forever. Like, so you don't know.
Right.
You don't have a sense of, I'm waiting for this end time. Something about that, like, I'm working right now, like, saying that makes me feel like, oh, you're going to come back to me, right? Mm-hmm. But if I don't keep asking, I don't know that you're ever going to come back.
Well, and if they see us on our phone as much as they do, which is a lot, they have no idea. That's all one thing to them.
Right, exactly.
They don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they don't.
I try to tell him I don't always do it, but I try to tell him what I'm doing and, like, show him sometimes. That I feel
that's
like
really
helps,
good.
But I don't know
that's really good. The other thing, switching to kids and screens, I don't think I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. The thing to watch for is watch your kid's face. Like, if I see a kid on an iPad in a restaurant and they're like they're looking at it, they're looking at their parents, they're like, they want to show what's on it or whatever. Like, that's not predatory technology. Like, they're engaging it. It's a part and a piece of this. But if you see your kid's eyes glossed over and their mouth hanging open, that's predatory technology. That has tapped into a part of their brain you do not want them tapping into. Like, that's not like a, some of that is good. No, you don't want that. Like, I'm not going to go into all of the reasons why right now. So that's, I would say, the number one thing you look for is if they're watching and they're laughing and they're running out back and forth, or they're wanting to show you, that is a very different thing. So watch their faces, and that's your cue that, okay, there really is a difference between, I don't want to say good screens, bad screens, but what it's doing to their brain. You can watch that happen on their face.
Joy, have you ever been driving around and you're like, you just need 30 seconds of, I don't know, to check your phone or to just space out and have your kid entertained, to cry?
Yeah.
Yes. And also, if you have your kid with you, but you need to distract him, but you don't want to put him in front of a screen, you know what a great thing that you can do would be?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to the car wash.
We're going to the car wash. And the car wash that Momcult endorses is Camel Express Car Wash, locally owned in Nashville, Tennessee.
I wish I could do like a camel noise, but I'm not confident on what that is. I'm just going to spit across the room. Yeah.
And Momcult listeners can text Momcult to 30400 for a free $25 car wash. Treat yourself to 30 seconds of darkness and just deafening sound, which happens to be usually entertaining for kids or terrifying, but either way.
Find out.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know if your kid's terrified.
Right in. Find your Camel Express at camelexpress.com. Thanks, Camel. Thanks, Camel.
This isn't necessarily Andrea podcast related, but this is coming up a lot for me, and therefore I assume it's coming up for other parents. Our generation as parents is having to juggle being present with our kids and the pull we have to do that, and also the awareness of everything that's happening in the world all the time, and what that does to us and the directions that pulls us in. And it can obviously take us away from trying to be present with our kids, because all of these things going on around us we're taking in, and we're feeling anxious and stressed about these bigger things that we feel like we can't control. And I know that it's okay for me to just not look at the news or not look at, I don't know, whatever your source of worldly information is. But also with our generation comes this immense guilt that if we are tuning it out, that we are part of the problem, and that it's almost like a badge of honor to be super informed about everything and have an opinion about everything and donate to a cause and do, like, the opportunities to get involved are being pushed in our face all the time. And I just wanted to know your thoughts about, I don't know, I guess just that it's okay for us to tune that out sometimes for the sake of ourselves and our kids. And I struggle with that a lot. I will want to tune things out, and then I'll be like, no, wait, if I'm tuning it out, then I'm part of the problem. And I feel like that's something that we are being fed right now as moms in our 30s. And I just didn't know if you had any thoughts or advice or stuff.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, I have some thoughts also.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, she said something about, and actually I wrote this down and then I deleted it because I thought it was too political, but I'll say this, that she mentioned the American dream, and I said in my mind, I'm going to close my eyes so I can get this right, hopefully. You can cut it off now.
You mean when she was like, we grew up
yes,
in the 80s and 90s and we were living the American dreams.
Right,
that part.
Right, yeah. And my thought was, the American dream still exists. We're just more aware of everything surrounding it, what goes into it, the dark underbelly of it, and we're all communicating and hearing what, like, not in some cases, maybe most cases, not really knowing our neighbors, but knowing what they think and feel, and then being like more irritated with them. So there's all this like push and pull, and what I'm struggling with the same thing, and what I'm doing is finding my truth. This is not advice, I'm just telling you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Finding my truth in the middle of that, and then shutting it off when I need to. Like, I keep watching like really jarring documentaries and have like put a stop on that. I cannot do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, just giving yourself, because I think raising good humans is the most important thing that we can do for everybody else going forward as the people that we are, in my opinion. So just doing a good job there.
Yeah,
and that
they can work together.
Right. And for some people, maybe that necessitates knowing every single thing that's going on and being able to speak on those topics. Maybe it does, and I don't begrudge you those things. But for me, that takes me away, like you're saying, like more often than not. So I chime in when I can, and then try to notice when it's wearing me out.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's enough. That is absolutely right. It's the truth. And I'm looking in our book to try to find, there's the whole section we have on the stats of everything, like crime, murder, like all of those kinds of stats for the last, like right now, are the lowest they've ever been in society. And yet most people think things are worse than they've ever been. But statistically, that's not true. And you have to remember that all of this information, every single bit of this information, is mediated by the media that needs you to watch it to make money. So they don't really care if you donate to a cause. They don't really care if you know what's happening. They care that you keep watching, right? So it's a really, really powerful message that we need you to know everything. From a therapeutic perspective, every single person has a certain amount of empathy that we can contain. There is an actual number to it, and I can't remember. It's a certain number of people that you can actually care about. And like, if you think of the purest form of empathy as like, if right now we saw like something jab into Joy's eye, we would actually, like, both of us would we would have a physical reaction to what just happened to her. So that's the way we're made biologically, evolutionarily, because we're supposed to feel that, so that we will help her. So we have this primal instinct to help her because her pain actually hurt us.
Your hair just poked my eye out.
Just for an example.
It's just, you're just picking a random thing. I don't.
So what has happened to us is that this absolute lie that being informed makes a difference is actually tripped us over. What happens is we don't have enough empathy for it.
Right, we just go numb.
So we cross over. And the example I give is school shootings. Like a first school shootings that ever happened, I was alive for, and the trauma that caused me, the pain that caused me to get to the point where now I can't even remember when the last school shooting was. And that's not because I don't care. I don't care a bit less now than I did then. It's that you only have so much energy to feel that kind of pain and loss. So what that has, the whole media culture has meant that each of us now has to become stewards of our empathy. That this is a resource that will get used up. And the only reason empathy matters is if you can do something, like to the extent that you can do something about it. So you have to ask yourself regularly, like, oh, that's great. That, like, how much money can I donate, right, to the Ukraine to make a difference? Versus how much can I do to make a difference in Ava's day today? Right? So where does your empathy need to go? Because like Sarah said, you're going to change the world because of the people's lives that you impacted. And that doesn't mean those other things won't happen, that they won't come out, but we've just gotten it reversed. where we're lost and we're not really helping anybody. We're just feeling bad all the time. Mm-hmm. And then we don't have the empathy. Where we're seeing it the most is in neighborhoods, right? I'm so pissed at the whole world or so exhausted by everything that now I can't even be a good neighbor. I can't like check on my neighbor who's sick or who needs help watering their flowers because I'm tapped out. Mm-hmm. Well, the only reason it matters is to help your neighbor water their flowers or to have patience with your child. So it's a really big, important conversation, mm-hmm. and I'm glad that you want to talk about it. And I would say let's change that phrase to, what'd you say, tuning it out makes me part of the problem. Mm-hmm. I would say tuning it out makes you capable of being a part of the solution.
Yeah. Did you hear that, everybody?
Let me off the hook.
Tuning it out makes you part of the solution.
When it comes to your time, when it comes to your front porch or your life, or I'm supposed to do something about that, and I have the resources to do it because I didn't waste them all worrying about things that are important, but I can't do anything about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that a lot too. Yeah. What do you think about when she said giving kids credit, talking about capable kids? Did that do anything for you?
She was saying she felt like she didn't get credit until she was like 10.
Right. And we've started doing that earlier. And
how with her own kids, she's realizing they deserve credit really early.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what I think about that.
Seems controversial.
It is. I feel controversial. I don't... Okay, well, she's also a Montessori person, so I'll get back to this.
Unintentionally,
right?
Apparently.
Which is so great.
Accidentally Montessori.
Organically.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so I taught Montessori. My daughter teaches Montessori. And one of the things that they've learned about child development, which is very, very lost in our society right now, is that, it's that whole concept of internal versus external validation. So the earlier you teach a child to get validation externally, the more they will look for and seek external validation. And that's the harder thing to get, right? Mm-hmm. It's harder to get, it's harder to find, and it's not based on what that child needs. It's based on what somebody else likes. So that's our whole lives, right? Is trying to not live according to everybody else's expectations. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big thing in child development. Don't train them to be externally validated. Right. So the way that played out, and this all has a spectrum, right? But the way it plays out in a strict Montessori classroom is that if a kid comes to you and shows you their work, what they finished, you say, how do you feel about that? Are you so proud of yourself? What was that like for you? You don't say, oh, you're amazing. That's so good.
Right.
So
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I do
cool.
too. No, but
but I've heard that too,
yeah.
And still
no, but I'm saying
it just feels
natural. Right. I'm still not going to not do that to Ava. Right. Except I probably, now that we're having this conversation, the point isn't that I don't feel that way, right? I do think it's amazing. I do think you're incredible. But there's something in kids, speaking to that truth, that tuning fork truth in kids, that they know, they don't want to be praised when they didn't earn it. And when they do earn it, they don't need to be praised because that's actually self-esteem. That's how it fed themselves. It's the whole inside treats thing. And there was a moment with Ava about this. Oh, she was doing something. She was doing a cartwheel. And we were like, put your legs straighter, giving her tips to improve the cartwheel. And she turned around and just gave us that evil eye.
Don't tell me how to do that.
Or how dare you not think I'm amazing the first time I did it. And I was like, Ava, are you seriously you don't want to grow or get better at anything? You just want to be the best the first time you ever do anything? And she was like, okay, watch me now. How is this?
I'll take your notes.
All that to say, I think there is a way of giving kids credit. But I think we're erring a little too much on the external validation, and that we could use a little swing to that other side. And that doesn't mean you're not validating them.
Right.
You are. You're just validating the things that are really going to build up something inside of them, not get them attached to your feedback and everybody else's feedback.
Yeah, like getting them prepped for when they are in like relationships instead of looking for that from whoever they're with.
Yeah, totally.
Whoever they end up being with all the time.
Exactly.
Teaching them the...
I feel like I took a couple of notes. I took a couple of notes. She, I think, was saying like giving kids credit at that age for knowing, just being able to have a little more autonomy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and their awareness of what's going on around them.
Right. That kind of credit. So speak to exactly what she was saying. But you brought up a great point that I've thought about a lot. That, well, first of all, Parker, when I give him like overpraise, and that's just, I do that to every person. Like I'll just say too many nice things. And not in like a, you know what I mean?
No,
I'll just
one of the worst
overpraise.
parts about being your friend.
Please.
It's too much. And he will have
want to get some of that out of your system here.
I can do it easily. It's better in a text. I can send you a good text. It has the opposite effect on him, really. Like he'll push back against it. If I give him too much praise, then he'll just like walk away from whatever it was he was doing. And then what's the other thing? Oh, something Eric and I talked about the other night was we were talking about giving a kid incentive for behavior, something that they want. If you do this, then you get this that adds up to getting this thing, and whether or not we thought that was a good idea. And I said I didn't really think that it was, but then also he said, well, in his home growing up, that like there were, I don't remember exactly the situation, but it was for good grades. You got a certain amount of good grades, and then that added up to maybe it was help with a car or something. And he was like firm that he believes in an incentive and that that's a good idea. And I know this mentality that you don't want to have them want so much external validation. And I wondered, like therapeutically, I was going to ask my therapist, but I'll just ask you.
Save some money, Sarah.
What do you think about that? Do you think those are the same thing?
Yeah, no. So 2 things. Going back to what you're saying about giving kids credit, she was talking about trusting that they know more and giving them more time and space. I love that. Yeah. I love that. So that's kind of a different good. Sure. I'm glad we had both conversations, but yeah. I totally think that we would have kids would have a better experience, and we would have a better experience parenting if we like just gave them a little more time and space before we interceded, and So yeah, I don't want to miss that because that's a really beautiful parenting strategy. But if you could reverse engineer parenting, you want to say what real life application does this have? So what Joy just said was you don't want them dependent on that feedback from their relationship to know they're okay, right? And so that's what you're modeling with your kid as a parent. But what you and Eric are talking about is, does that have a real world application? If there are things that you work hard on, does that end up being something? Like, are you basically teaching a work ethic?
Right, like how to hold a job, how to do well in school.
Yeah, and so at different times in your kids' lives, that could be emotional. Like my Brandon really had anger issues when he was like 5-6 years old. He was in anger management class in 1st grade.
I do not remember that.
It's because every time they played around the world and this one girl kept beating him, he would just go push her over. So for him, it was an incredible amount of discipline. Like, even though that was an emotional issue, like for him to get rewards for every, like, you didn't lose your temper. You got so angry and you didn't hurt anybody else. That was his big thing. You're allowed to get angry. You just can't hurt anybody else. Well, that's going to really apply in real life, right? Like, so if he learns that discipline, it should get some, like, that's right. You're going to have more friends,
right?
And
get
you're going to get a job.
Yeah.
So it's more about all parenting is just creating as many real world artificial consequences and benefits for training them for what that will actually look like in real life.
What was the reward for his anger stuff? Do you remember?
Let's see.
I like to just do exactly what you did.
Yeah, okay. So what you should know is he loved T-shirts so much. He loved T-shirts. The very first thing he ever bought with his own money was a Power Rangers T-shirt because he flowered my neighbor's. He watered.
So that's never heard it used in that term, but
some good thing, I guess.
Congratulations are in order, sir.
He watered her flowers. He got $1 a day. $1 a day. And just watching him save up those little quarters.
Yeah. Every day he didn't get, hurt someone with his anger. Sounds worse than it is.
So, we'll save. I've got an idea we'll talk about the next podcast because it's a whole other conversation about consequences. So
those things are different. Got it.
I mean, just think, will this matter in the real world? If he was in the real world, what are the tiniest little things he could be learning to see that his choices, what he does and what he doesn't do have an impact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Eric could see that in the moment, and I was like, no, but the book says this. I don't think so. But he was right. You were right.
You were right.
It's okay. He's not listening.
He does sometimes.
Do you have anything else that you really want to talk about that stuck out to you? Because we've got a little bit of time if we want to do one more topic.
The concept of being touched out is really fascinating to me.
Because of when she was talking about breastfeeding,
the
physical,
and just I am fascinated by that conversation because I'm on the other end of the spectrum, and just like we talked about, like the loss of having kids, even my adult kids around. Because even if my adult kids are around, I'm still going to get so much more touch and physical contact, and just that hearing her say that was like almost being slapped of like, oh my God, do you remember when you were touched out?
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's a huge part of this phase of life is I cannot get enough touch. Like it's gone.
Right.
And that is fascinating to me. I've not ever heard anybody talk about that. Just how physical being a mom is. And then it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Parker's not really... He can be the most affectionate, but he's really not. Like, he's not all the time, for sure. He's definitely not the most cuddly kid. So when he is, I really treasure that. But then also sometimes, my main thing is if you're pulling on my shirt, I cannot stand that. And so I'll feel that feeling then. But
I just feel crappy all the time because Penny can do whatever she wants. I don't care. But yeah, if Ava pulls on my arm or something, I'm just like, don't touch me.
That's so interesting. It's like different touch with different stages.
Yeah.
One part of you're touched out because of Penny, too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is true.
It's amazing how you get so adjusted. I don't know if that's the right word, but so adjusted to what your life is now that, yeah, sometimes I will just legitimately forget, hey, you had a baby, you have a new baby, you have a little kid. That is why, that is playing a big part.
You're on
in
steroids.
Your patience being less in other areas of your life. Right. Because it's not like you're just not good at this anymore or super impatient. Right. There's a reason. There are reasons behind all of this, and sometimes I have to actually write them out in my journal. Why? Oh yeah, that's why I'm doing that, because I'm giving all this to this.
Yeah.
But I definitely have not. I'm still, and maybe will always be, just, I don't know, just the balance of when to give myself grace and when to slap myself out of it, or slap myself into it, and I don't know. Or if it's just no, you just give your self-grace all the time. But for some reason saying that sounds like a cop-out, or I'm trying to make things, I don't know, not too easy for myself, but I don't know, just the level at which I need to be growing as a human at all times. And when I'm allowed to take a break from that, if I'm allowed to take a break from that, I don't know. I don't have a point, I don't think.
I think you can be gracefully firm with yourself, and then also give yourself grace, I think. And then you said, well, like, speaking to I think it's like the first thing we talked about, like the transition and the identity teeter-totter and all that stuff. What she said, not knowing what we need to ask for, like, especially in the beginning, like maybe that's the main thing I remember, is just like learning, okay, this is why this is insane or whatever. And then, so especially with this first, you just don't know. And with 2 kids, I think it's totally new. It's a whole other thing. So
yeah,
I think giving yourself grace all the time, that's not a cop-out in my...
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I don't think that.
Well, if you really were...
Well,
I don't think you know my sister, where that could go, where that could lead.
She's going to get real lazy. It's going to be... There's a downward spiral.
So, the truth, if we really could live in the place of giving ourselves all the grace that we needed, we would give it to our kids. We would give it to our spouses. We would, like, you can't be like, oh, okay, I'm going to let myself off the hook. I'm just a human doing the best I can right now. When you do that, you start looking at everyone else around you and you're like, oh, hi. You're just a human.
Right.
This is the best you can do. So it's not a passive choice.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that creates a new reality for you. And I mean, my kind of way I'm surviving right now is I have this practice of, like, I'm in this moment. I'm here to give this moment the best that I can, like, to make this moment better because I was here, and to let this moment make me better because it moved through me. And, like, so far that has not looked like really anything but just breathing. I'll be like, okay, I made the moment better. The moment made me better.
I'm doing it.
And next.
I'm making it better.
That's all I got.
Should we talk about either home birth or placenta eating?
I don't know. I think Andrea covered it.
Yeah, she did. She really did cover it all. You get all you need on that in the main episode. So check. Yeah, give us your favorite things.
Okay, so we talked about me. I'm so excited. We talked about having a new segment that would be my favorite things. Because
she's got a lot.
When I get obsessed about something, I want everyone to know about it. And so this one is Olivia Olive Oil in Franklin, Tennessee. It's an olive oil and vinegar store that has the best olive oils and vinegars from all over the world, and it comes directly from the people who make them.
Does she want to sponsor us?
She might, but she already sponsors me. So, no, I mean personally, not.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's
podcast.
good.
So it's owned by my friend Christy, and I met her about a year ago at an art crawl and had so much fun. I was like, such a lonely time in my life. They had an event the next day, and I was like, I'm coming and helping you with an event tomorrow. She's like, I'll let you know if we need your help. And I was like, no, I'm coming to help. So I call it my hobby job. I've trained there. I can do everything that's in the store to do, and whenever I want, I just walk downtown and I walk in the store and I start, like, giving people tastings, or I'll package up some things, or I'll check people out at the register. So it gives me, because my world is so, like, writing and therapy is so introverted and deep. It gives
you
me
some
a place,
community,
and I get to, like, engage with the public. I love it so much, and I love, like, if you have, well, you did the tastings. Like, when you, like, what's one right now that's really yummy? Like blueberry balsamic with basil olive oil. Like, you put that on a salad, you put it on chicken. It's like, it's nothing. You had nothing. You had, like, rotisserie chicken and some noodles, and you put that on it, and you're like, oh my gosh, yes. I'm eating the best thing ever. So that is my favorite thing for this episode.
Nice. Yeah. Olivia's Olive Oil in Franklin, Tennessee. Well, what, in regards to what we kind of touched on today, Jen, what do you think some words to leave behind would be for this episode?
So what just popped into my head was that I do a lot of, like, training on what it means to, like, get into the state of flow. which is like your brain's very happiest place to be, like when you're just in the moment. And one of the things is that you're doing what you need to do so completely that, and it's challenging enough that you don't have enough time to think about how you're looking or how you're doing it. You're like, oh, does anybody see me? Like, you can't do that. So the best example of that's rock climbing. Like, if you're rock climbing, you can't be thinking, do I look good right now? Or do I look stupid? Or what's someone thinking of me? Because your brain has to be 1,000% on where's my hand, where's my foot, and your life is somewhat dependent on it. So I just had the thought of, like, doing that more with parenting. Like, do what you need to do. Like, stop thinking about, if you have enough energy to think, what would someone else think about this? Is this who I really want to be? If all of that conversation.
Are other kids behaving this way?
Yeah. Yes, whatever. Keep going with that. Whatever that is like, then maybe check in and be like, wait, if I've got enough energy to be thinking all that, am I really doing actually what needs to be done right now?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my little tip for.
I mean, I like that, but also kind of hate it. But I guess it's hopeful.
Why do you hate it?
It's just something else I have to do and work on.
Yeah. I used to like
another thing on your list.
Yeah.
10,041.
I used to, or I still do sometimes, but I would be like, I would not trust myself to remember something that I like was concerned about him with. Like, I don't know, he did something and I was like, oh, I need to remember that later to like look it up or think about it or whatever. And then I stopped doing that. And I think that was helpful. Just cut this part out. I'm just telling you. So another conversational thing. Why did I say that? Maybe it's helpful. I don't know. Yeah. But that is that realm of stuff, and hearing that's okay to do, I don't know, is helpful.
Yeah.
Well, she just had said, I don't know if we're dealing with sleeping issues or the cultural pressure about sleeping issues.
Right.
And like, as soon as she said that, I was like, being exhausted and trying to figure out the whole sleeping thing, it's like enough.
It's enough on its own.
So it's more, it's not asking you to not do another thing. It's just to realize the problem you're actually trying to solve needs all of you to solve it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you aren't going to have the resources you need if you're also spending all that energy on that other stuff.
Yeah. So many other voices that don't even know us.
No.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. That's good.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
I love you. Love your hair.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait to get my new products, Sarah.
I'm sorry about your hair.
Right?
It is hard.
R.I.P. your hair. I don't.
People say they like
Out
it,
with
but
the old
I don't
and
know.
the new.